Driving alone at night usually feels safe. You have your doors locked, your headlights on, and the radio playing. But out on those empty highways, miles from the nearest town, you are more vulnerable than you think. Tonight, I'm sharing 3 terrifying stories from drivers who saw things on the road that they can never explain. And the last driver barely made it home. Let's get straight into the first story. Story 1. The Shortcut. I have been a long-haul truck driver for about 5 years, but this story isn't about my truck. This happened in my personal car a few years ago when I was driving back home to Texas from a family reunion in Oklahoma. It was around 2 in the morning. I was tired and I just wanted to get to my own bed. My GPS suggested a new route that would save me about 20 minutes. Being exhausted, I didn't think twice. I took the exit. At first, the road was fine. It was a paved 2-lane highway passing through endless fields. But after 10 miles, the pavement turned into gravel. The streetlights disappeared. It was pitch black, with only my headlights cutting through the dust. I slowed down to about 30 miles per hour because I didn't want to damage my tires. The silence out there was heavy. No crickets, no wind. Just the sound of gravel crunching under my wheels. About 5 miles down this dirt road, I saw something red reflecting in my high beams. As I got closer, I realized it was a pickup truck. It was parked sideways, completely blocking the road. My first instinct was that someone had crashed. I started to slow down, intending to get out and help. But then, a feeling washed over me. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. It was that primal instinct telling me that something was wrong. I stopped my car about 50 feet away from the truck. I kept the engine running. I flashed my high beams, waiting for a driver to wave or signal for help. Nothing. The truck just sat there, dark and silent. I rolled down my window just an inch to listen. That is when I heard it. A soft whistling sound coming from the tall grass on the right side of the road. Then, the driver's side door of the truck slowly creaked open. But nobody got out. It just hung open, swinging slightly. Suddenly, I saw movement in my peripheral vision. To my left, in the ditch, a man stood up. He wasn't wearing a shirt, and he was holding something long and metallic. A pipe, or maybe a crowbar. At the exact same time, 2 more figures stepped out from behind the truck. They weren't injured. They were waiting. My heart hammered against my chest. I didn't think. I just reacted. I slammed my car into reverse. My tires spun in the loose gravel, kicking up dust and rocks. As I started moving backward, the man on the left ran toward my car. He swung the metal bar and hit my front bumper with a loud thud. I floored it in reverse, not caring if I went into a ditch. I drove backward for what felt like a mile before I finally found a spot wide enough to turn the car around. I sped back to the main highway, doing 80 miles per hour on that dirt road. I didn't look back once. When I finally got back under the streetlights of the interstate, I pulled over at a gas station and got out to check my car. There was a massive dent in my front bumper and deep scratches on the hood. I don't know what they wanted, but I know that if I had gotten out of my car to help, I never would have made it home that night. Story 2. The Smiling Man at the Rest Stop. This happened last winter. I was driving from Colorado to Kansas to visit my girlfriend for the weekend. It is a long, flat drive, mostly just straight lines and cornfields for hours. Around 3 a.m., I started dozing off at the wheel. I knew I needed to walk around and get some cold air, or I was going to crash. I saw a sign for a rest area coming up in 2 miles, so I took the exit. It was one of those old, desolate rest stops. No gas station, no vending machines, just a small brick building for the bathrooms and a few concrete picnic tables. The parking lot was empty except for one other vehicle. It was a dirty, beige sedan parked under the only working streetlight. I parked a few spots away from it. I turned off my engine, and the silence was instant. I grabbed my phone and stepped out. The air was freezing. As I walked toward the bathroom, I glanced at the beige sedan. The windows were tinted dark, so I couldn't see inside, but I got a weird feeling, like I was being watched. I used the bathroom quickly. When I came back out, I froze. Standing right next to my car was a man. He was tall and wearing a long gray coat that looked too big for him. But the scary part was that he wasn't looking at me. He was facing my driver's side window, leaning forward, pressing his forehead against the glass, staring into my empty car. I stood there by the bathroom door, terrified. I cleared my throat, trying to make a noise to let him know I was there. He didn't jump. He didn't look surprised. He just slowly turned his head to look at me. He had a massive, wide smile on his face. It didn't look natural. His eyes were wide open, unblinking, just staring right through me. He didn't say a word. He just kept smiling. I didn't ask him what he was doing. My gut told me to leave immediately. I walked a wide circle around him to get to the passenger side door. I unlocked it, jumped in, and scrambled over the center console into the driver's seat. While I was fumbling with my keys, he walked around the front of the car. He stopped right in front of my headlights. He waved at me, a slow, stiff wave. I started the car and peeled out of the parking lot. I didn't look back until I was back on the highway. I drove fast, pushing 90 miles per hour. I thought it was over. But 10 minutes later, I saw headlights in my rearview mirror. They were coming up fast. It was the beige sedan. He pulled up right behind me. He was so close that I couldn't even see his headlights anymore, just the dark outline of his car. I sped up to 100. He matched me. Then, he moved into the left lane and pulled up right beside me. I refused to look over. I stared straight ahead, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. We were going 100 miles per hour, side by side on a dark, empty highway. Suddenly, he swerved his car toward mine, as if trying to run me off the road. I slammed on my brakes. He shot past me, laughing. I could see his silhouette in his car. He was throwing his head back, laughing hysterically. He sped off into the darkness ahead of me. I pulled over to the shoulder and turned off my lights. I sat there in the dark for 30 minutes, shaking, calling the police. A state trooper eventually found me and escorted me to the next town. They never found the beige sedan. To this day, I don't drive at night unless I absolutely have to. Story 3. The Thing in the Fog. My job requires me to drive through the Pacific Northwest, usually through thick forests and mountain passes. I am used to seeing deer, elk, and even bears crossing the road. But what I saw last month was not an animal. It was raining hard, a cold, heavy rain that made it impossible to see more than 20 feet ahead. I was driving slowly down a winding 2-lane road, surrounded by tall pine trees. I came around a sharp curve, and my headlights swept across the tree line. That is when I saw it. Something was crouching in the middle of the right lane. I slammed on my brakes, skidding on the wet asphalt. I came to a stop about 10 feet away from it. My heart was racing. I thought maybe I had almost hit a wounded deer. I squinted through the rain on my windshield. The shape was pale, almost white. It looked like skin, but wet and slick. It was hunched over, like a ball. I reached for my horn to scare it off, but before I could press it, the thing started to unfold. It didn't stand up like a person. It uncurled. Its limbs were too long, way too long. It had arms that looked like they had extra joints in them. It rose up to its full height, and it must have been 7 feet tall. It was extremely thin, like a skeleton wrapped in tight, pale skin. It stood there in the rain, illuminated by my high beams. Then, it turned its head toward me. It didn't have a face, no eyes, no nose. Just a smooth, pale surface where a face should be. And then, a slit opened up in the center of the head. A mouth. It opened wider than a human jaw ever could, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth. It let out a sound that I can still hear in my nightmares. It wasn't a roar. It was a high-pitched scream, like a woman screaming in agony, but mixed with a gargling sound. The sound vibrated through my car windows. Panic took over. I didn't care if I ran it over. I slammed my foot on the gas. The creature didn't move out of the way. It lunged at my car. As I sped past it, I heard a loud thump against my passenger side door. The car shook. I looked in the rearview mirror and saw it running after me on all fours, galloping like a twisted dog. It was fast, terrifyingly fast. I drove 80 miles per hour on those wet, winding roads, risking my life to get away. I watched the mirror until the pale shape finally vanished into the fog behind me. When I got to the next town, I checked the side of my car. There were 3 deep scratches clawed into the metal of the passenger door. They went right down to the steel. I don't take that route anymore. I don't care if it adds 2 hours to my trip. I will never go back into those woods. Those were 3 terrifying stories from the road. It makes you think twice about driving alone at night. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments. Which story was the scariest? The ambush, the stalker, or the creature? If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I post new horror stories every week, and you don't want to miss what is coming next. Drive safe and stay out of the dark.